Hello learners and welcome to your natural sciences lesson. So today we're going to be dealing with the concept of acids, bases and the pH value. So now, before we start, did you know that hydrogen is present in all types of acids? So during this lesson, you're going to be exploring more about acids and bases and how to test if a substance is an acid and also if it is a base. But before we get to that part, we need to set goals that we need to achieve by the end of the lesson. So by the end of the lesson, this is what I'm expecting from you. That number one, by the end of the lesson, you should be able to understand what the pH scale refers to. You also need to be able to measure the pH of a substance, describe a substance that has a pH that is below 7, also describe a substance that has a pH above 7, and then also explain the meaning of a substance that has a pH that is equals to 7. So you must know below 7, above 7, and equal to 7. And then lastly, you need to be able to observe and draw conclusions when a universal indicator is used in different substances. So that's what I want us to be able to know by the end of the lesson. Right. In order to achieve that, obviously we are going to break our main idea into small concepts that we can tackle bit by bit. So as we have said, our main idea is acids, bases, and the pH value. Now within that, we're going to start by looking at the concept of the pH value. What is it and what does it do for us? And then also we're going to be looking at indicators, and then they are all related to the acids, bases, and the pH value. So now let's see what is it that we know up to this point about both an acid and a base. So to start, we're going to look at an acid. We know that an acid or acids, they taste sour. And then we also know that they can make bases lose their basic characteristic. What makes them a base? So an acid can make a base to lose its characteristic. Then we also know that strong acids are corrosive, which means, so strong acids, they are corrosive. And that means that they break down certain substances and cause serious burn on your skin. So that's what corrosive means in terms of in this regard. We also know that many strong acids can corrode fabric, skin, and paper. And then we also know that weak acids, they are not corrosive. So we have strong acids and weak acids. Strong acids, they are corrosive, whereas the weak acids, they are not corrosive. Then some acids react strongly with metals, so that we know. And then lastly, that the acids, they can turn a blue litmus paper to red. So when you dip a litmus paper into an acid, that paper is going to turn red. Now, what about a base? We know that bases, they feel slippery. So when you touch them to the touch, they feel slippery. And then they taste bitter, which is not advisable that you taste anything that you do not know. Can either be an acid and a base, and we know that strong acids are very corrosive, so they can damage your skin and even kill you at that. Now, bases are also corrosive, so as I've said, it's not advisable that you taste them, but then they do taste bitter, but then don't taste them. The properties of bases, again, that they do not react with metals. So the bases do not react with metals, but the acids, they do react strongly with metals. And then lastly, the bases, they turn a red litmus paper blue. So with what we know, let's see if whether we can be able to answer these questions. So we are given that we need to complete the table to compare the properties of acids and bases. So we are given that we have an acid and a base, and we need to fill in this table by comparing their properties. So we know that acids, they taste sour, right? And then the acids, they feel rough to the touch. So when you touch them, they feel rough. And then are they corrosive? Yes, we know that acids are very corrosive, especially the strong acids. They are highly corrosive. So yes, they are corrosive. And then the color of the litmus paper. So if you were to dip a litmus paper into an acid, what is it going to be? We know that acids turn litmus paper into red. So this is going to turn red. And then now what about the bases, comparing them with the acids? Now we know that if acids, they taste sour, then bases must be tasting bitter. So therefore, the bases, they are bitter. They are bitter. Right. And then the feel, when you to the touch, how do they feel, the bases? So we know that bases, they feel slippery to the touch. And then another one, corrosive. Are bases corrosive? Yes, bases and acids are corrosive. Remember, it depends on the strength of the acid and also the strength of the base. So yes, they are corrosive as well. And then lastly, the color of litmus paper. So if you were to dip a litmus paper into a base, it is going to turn blue. So this is going to be blue. There we go. Now, throughout this entire lesson, as you stay tuned, we need to know that we're going to be using certain specific words such as neutral substance, pH value, and indicators. We need to know what they mean. So a neutral substance, that's a substance that is neither an acid or a base. So it's in between. It's not an acid and also not a base. Now, the pH value, what is a pH value? Now, that is used as a measure of acidity or the basicity of a substance. So the pH value gives us an indication of whether this substance is acidic or this substance is basic. And then lastly, indicators. Now, those are substances that indicate if a substance is acidic or basic. The pH value, it is a number that tells us if a substance is acidic or basic. Now, the indicator, it's a substance that indicates that this substance is acidic and this substance is basic. Now, before we get started with our first concept, we're just going to quickly take an ad break, and I'll see you just after this.